Dear faculty, students, and guests, good afternoon. On behalf of the Master of Arts in Learning and Teaching Processing in Second Languages, I offer you the warmest welcome to this new session of the ML2 Open Lecture Series, or Cátedra Abierta ML2, as we will call it when the sessions take place in Spanish. The ML2 Open Lecture Series is an initiative of our master's program that intends to provide the language academic community at UPB and Medellín with a window to discover who we are and what we do. Each of our lectures has always been linked to different courses and curriculum, both in the English and Spanish entities. Each lecture features either distinguished guest speakers from Colombia and abroad or interventions by qualified faculty. You will have the chance to participate in the lecture with our graduate students and, in a way, attend a class session with them. This is actually by design. All Open Lecture Series sessions will take place on Fridays at 4 p.m., aligning with the class schedule. Past presenters in the ML2 Open Lecture Series have featured Professor Brian Street from the United Kingdom, Dr. Christopher Nimick from the United States, Professor Bolivariana from Colombia, Dr. Susana Martin from Spain, Professor Dr. Piotr Zelinsky from Poland, and Professor Dr. Elena Turina from Russia. At this time, we already have confirmation of several featured speakers for next year, both in English and in Spanish. We expect that the ML2 Open Lecture Series continues to provide a space for teachers' professional development in the city. We also hope it will provide incentive for those in attendance to eventually join the ML2 community as graduate students or even faculty. This is also a way for us to give back to a community that has been so welcoming to our proposals. The ML2 Open Lecture Series is not an endeavor that one person or even a program can carry out alone. While this event is an initiative proposed by the Master of Arts in Learning and Teaching Processing in Second Languages, turning this idea into a blossoming reality has been a collective effort. I would like to thank the following units and groups of the University for making that possible: the Faculty of Education, the Language Center, the Advanced Education System, the Literacies in Second Languages project from the Student Research Group on Second Languages, and the Center for Information and Communication Technologies. It is now my honor to introduce our distinguished featured speaker for today's ML2 Open Lecture Series, Dr. Martha Elizabeth Varón. Dr. Varón is a professor at the Department of Arts and Humanities at Universidad de Tolima in Ibagué. She holds doctoral degrees from Universidad de Granada in Spain and Universidad Tecnológica Pereira in Colombia. Her research interests, reflected in her multiple peer-reviewed articles, book chapters, international presentations, and her forthcoming book, lie in the fields of language and globalization, language teaching methodologies, communicative competence in language textbooks, and cross-cultural interaction in the language classroom. Dr. Varón joined ML2 as a visiting professor this semester. She is currently teaching the course English Emphasis 3 and will be eventually the master's advisor to one or several of our students. As part of her visiting professorship, she agreed to open her classroom and host this session of the ML2 Open Lecture Series. Her talk, titled The Construction of Identities in the Process of Learning Second Languages, will first explore the notion of identity from a historical perspective, to then look at the current research trends in the areas of language learning and teaching. Now, without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's give Dr. Varón a warm welcome.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's good like this? Yeah. Listen to me. This is a very generous introduction for me, and it's a challenge after that to say something valuable for you. You know what I want to share today? It's a set of reflections that was caused by the situation of the minority Indian groups in the south of the Department of Tolima. You know that in the south of Tolima we have 2 or 3 big towns which are full of indigenous, although I don't like the word, but that's the word we use, right? And some of them arrive to the university to learn English because they manufacture products to export out of the country. So they don't have any other motivation to learn a foreign language other than exporting their products, the products of the community. So there are some students who arrive to the university and they face very hard challenges to adapt and adopt themselves into the university setting of foreign language learning. So the interest on this idea of identities came for that, but came for the participation of a social sciences group I belong to, and to realize in certain way that the formation programs in licenciaturas or whatever you call it in Colombia, they form for the production of the language, but it's not that big emphasis in the reflection of the processes that the students have and the processes that the teachers have to make students not only learn but transform themselves into what we are calling intercultural speakers, right? So, at Universidad de Tolima we have a whole bunch of tradition in this idea of interculturalism. But from the perspective of teaching languages, we didn't have much produced. So I entered to that group with the interest of looking at that, and it ended in being my biggest interest now, and I am working currently on that, and I think it has future. So I want to talk a little bit about the way I see identity, because there are not consensus in social sciences. So I cannot tell you this is identity, but the way I see it from the perspective of my research approach. You see, I chose this image. Actually, I didn't choose. I asked my little boy, Benjamin, who's 5. I gave him a whole bunch of images. I want to share them with you later. I said, I want you to choose one that makes you that gives you the idea of movement, transformation. And this is the one he chose, right? Identity, and it's the only thing, or the only truth that all the authors that I have read coincide in saying, that identity is something that is in a continuous transformation, right? That is not the same. So I want to organize the presentation into 3 big momentos. The first one is, to talk a little bit about what is identity. And in the second moment, I want to talk about the topic of the presentation, which is language teaching and the construction of identities. And in third place, I want to open a discussion with you about the possible research trends or the possibilities that we can find in this field in the specific area of language teaching and learning. Okay? So I had the idea that it was a smaller place with people closer than me, and I thought about asking you first, right? Because I'm not giving you final answers, but I want you to tell us if you want, to share what is the idea that you have about identity. Someone? What is identity for you? Nobody? Okay, Tatiana?
Okay, I think that for identity is something, is who I am, respect the others.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every day, every single day, we are constructing ourselves, taking into account our relation with the others, with the people who is around us. I think that identity.
That's good.
So
Thank
what I
you.
do-
What's your name?
Right.
Brian.
So I think identity is the way, and I build my world. So principle, I think identity is the way in which others see what I do, and in the way as they look for what I do. I think.
Mhm. Somebody else?
I think identity are the characteristics or the features that define us. Just that.
To define?
Yes, that
Define
define
people?
us.
Okay. Yes. Okay. I think, okay, thank you.
Well, based in background, I would say that identity is something that will build in a collective way. So it is about traditions, thoughts, way, behaviors, and I don't know, but I would say that identity is possible because I live with others. So I would say that it is highly related.
Thank you. All of you are right. You know that, right? Why? Because as I said before, identity is a term with not consensus. And you're saying, you are giving elements that are on the definition from the social sciences, especially from the cultural studies. Authors like Homi Bhabha or Stuart Hall, they have a very, I don't know how to say that. A very open idea about what's identity. Because they say that obviously there is no consensus, but there is something which is this idea of defining myself in front of the others and defining others in front of me. So if you see, there's always a relation with the other, and the other is the one who puts the mirror for me to see myself and say who I am, right? And I am the mirror of the other. So you see that there are two words which are contradictory, and at the same time they are necessary, because you need to see the difference, right, in order to see what you are. The difference in the other one, that the other one needs to see the difference in you, right? So, when I was looking at this previously here, I noticed that there's something here that I forgot, and it is education. And I think education goes in the center. And I think Oscar was the one who took lunch with us today, the teacher from Cali. Ugo's not here, right? No.
Yeah, he has to take to
We were talking about bullying at the university, and the question Ugo asked was, what was our mistake? What did we do wrong? What's going on with kids? Why they are, bullying all the time? And it is obviously, it has to do with identity, obviously. And these are the theoretical backgrounds that I have been observing. But obviously in the center, I think education should be anthropology, sociology, psychology, theology, as general sciences. But as interdisciplinary fields, cultural studies, humanities, social sciences, and literature, they have been talking about identity, and they have been defining identity. These questions are asked by Kumara Valivelo. Do you remember him? Yes? He's famous, right? in language teaching. He says that. I mean, and it was interesting for me to listen to him. I am who I am because I am not you. You are who you are because you are not me, right? So he said it was in a conference that we can see by internet. I mean, in YouTube about identities. I recommend it to you. So there are two concepts in confrontation all the time, and it is sameness and difference. They are all the time, not only in a confrontation, but they are taking distance of each other too. And at the same time, they are looking for a balance. And that's what we human beings do, right? We are all the time confronting with others in order to look at ourselves. That's why we dress the way we do, that's why we use the language we use, that's why we do things we do, because we are defining ourselves by means of what we do and what we are. This is the Webster dictionary. This is a very old dictionary that I have at home, and I look for the definition to bring it because I have never, and the teacher told me, and you didn't include the definition by the dictionary. I was like, oh my God, I just didn't, Look at the definitions in the Webster College Dictionary. First one, remaining the same. You see? Being oneself. Conditions or character. There are 7 or 8 definitions. I took some of them. Look at these. State of fact of being the same one as described. Sense of self, providing sameness, continuity in personality over time. I want to take that into account to talk a little bit about it later. Likeness in nature or qualities, identity of interest. And in mathematics, it means an equation that is valid for all values. And it is the same that we can find in Spanish. Cualidad de idéntico, conjunto de rasgos propios de un individuo, conciencia que una persona tiene de ser ella misma y distinta a los demás, hecho de ser alguien o algo que se supone o se busca, y lo mismo que habíamos dicho en matemáticas, igualdad algebraica, verificada siempre cualquiera que sea el valor de sus variables. Eso es una identidad. However, whenever we talk about identity, we go to this idea of membership, right? So we belong to a class, we have a nation, we have sexual condition, we all have, a definition about our beliefs, religious beliefs. We act according to our profession, apparently, right? This is one of the definitions that I like the most. That's why I include it. Stuart Hall, one of my favorite authors, he says that identities are about questions of using the resources of history, language, and culture in the process of becoming rather than being. I like this definition because he took 3 elements: history, language, and culture. Why? Because of most of the postmodern authors, they take language and culture, but they forget about history. I mean, they don't give that importance to history. And this is, I think, one of the most important elements to construct identities, at least in national history. I think is very important. The linguist, Jim, he says that identity has to do with who we and others think we are. And he proposes 3 lines of research, right? I mean, to ask about identity of people in language education, he proposes 3 different lines that I think are important. And he called them the 3 C's: the competences, the communities, and the commitments. In the competences, he proposes to ask what people does, and the answer, I mean, is related to the skills, the vocations, the roles, the professions, the knowledge, right? And second, where one is from, I use 3 marks, sorry. Location, beliefs, groups, the membership from people and groups. And the third one has to do with the personal relationships, right? It's the same author giving a little bit of history about the concept. He says that it can be traced back to the use of the term personal identity in philosophical discussions of what are the criteria of identity for people, right? Okay. Whenever we talk about the construction of identities, I mean, if we say construction, it is because we accept that in the processes of learning, we are constructing people, right? In the wonderful opportunity that we have whenever we are learning another language, no matter if it is a foreign language or just a second language, wherever, we have a wonderful opportunity to see the way others inhabit their grammars, right? The way the others act within those grammars. And to have the possibility, of living within those grammar, give us the possibility of being, thank you. It gives us the possibility of constructing interculturalism. We are going to talk a little bit about that. But there is always, like a battlefield, a struggle between identity and the construction of a person as a person who can, interact with others. The name provided by Homi Bhabha, he said there is a struggle between essentialism and identity. Why? Because in spite of the theories that give this idea of fractal, of formation, of construction, of a never-ending product in people who are learning a language, on the other side there is this idea of giving adjectives to people, not to permit the people to move from the place we place them according to the adjectives we give to people. I don't know if I am clear. A Colombian, for example, learning English is very worried. People are very worried about not use this phonological accent of the Latin when speaking in English, right? So we are not trying to be ourselves, but we are trying to be other whenever we are speaking in English. Like we are imitating another person, we are not. Because, in TV programs like The Modern Family, for example, beautiful Sofia Vergara shows a pronunciation that we don't want for us. Because, yes, she's very sexy, she's very beautiful, but she is ridiculous in some way in the way she speaks, so that's not the way we want to be. But if we think a little bit about that, when we are attending classes of phonetics, the teacher is emphasizing all the time that we have, to sound American, to sound another, right? So obviously, if you know language, and if you pronounce it well, and if you communicate, and if you have good lexical knowledge, and if you have a good grammar, but if you speak like a Medellín accent in English, it's not going to be that good. But Medellín accent is your accent, right? So you have to let it there and try to sound like yourself speaking in another body, but that's not your body, right? So there is obviously a continuous struggling in that. So I think the challenge for educators is big, because it's not only pronunciation. It has to do with the methods. It has to do with the way we conceive grammar. It has to do with the way we teach students to be intercultural with our actions, not only with the language itself, right? This is the second picture that Benjamin decided for you. What do you see there? Él la escogió porque era su favorita, sí, pero yo le dije, escoge una que te suene como a procesos, como a cosas que estás aprendiendo. Dijo, esta, ¿por qué la escogiste? Porque es mi favorita. Las imágenes de fractales que se encuentran en internet son muy bellas. Y a mí me llaman mucho la atención las mandalas y las imágenes de fractales, porque ellas muestran de alguna manera las tendencias de las ciencias sociales contemporáneas, la fragmentación de la mente humana, las posibilidades de estar aquí y allá al mismo tiempo. ¿Sí? Muchas cosas se muestran a través de eso, y además la física misma en sus teorías nos ha puesto a patinar, ¿no? No solamente a don Albert Einstein, sino que la física contemporánea también nos ha puesto a pensar mucho en cómo es que estamos comprendiendo el mundo. So there is something that I think is important about identities, and it is that in the postmodern condition, it is accepted that the subject is fragmented, right? That we are not learning from A to B to C to D, but probably the way we learn is not something we can describe step by step. So if it is like this, the question about the methods is something we have to look at, right? Because in language teaching especially, we have been giving a whole bunch of importance and time and dedication, time consuming, to prepare step-by-step classes, step-by-step processes. That you have to have the control of everything you do in class, because you think that if you do that, the student is learning the same way you are teaching, and it is never true, right? said this, you know, en las palabras y las cosas de Foucault, en el prefacio, hace mucho tiempo, hace como unos 8 años más o menos, o más, cuando yo leí este libro, lo leí porque me lo regaló mi hija y no porque me llamara la atención, pero nunca me puedo olvidar del impacto que causó en mí esta clasificación. Foucault cuenta que Jorge Luis Borges, gran lector, encuentra en una vieja enciclopedia china una clasificación de los animales. La clasificación de los animales que encontró fue esta que ustedes están viendo, que están leyendo. Yo creo que así es que se está entendiendo desde las teorías contemporáneas sobre identidades, así es que se está entendiendo la premisa. Fíjense en una cosa, nosotros tenemos un idioma, o sea, hablamos una lengua que tiene 27 fonemas, ¿verdad? 27 grafemas. Y con 27 grafemas se han escrito montones y montones y montones de volúmenes. En la lengua castellana esos 27 grafemas tienen más o menos el mismo número de fonemas, ¿verdad? O sea, las letras más o menos dan una idea de nuestra fonética. En inglés tenemos más fonemas que grafemas, porque por ejemplo los puntos de articulación vocálicos son muchos más que en español. Sin embargo, aprendemos con las mismas grafías, ¿no? Podemos comprender, digamos, desde nuestra posición occidentalizada el mundo, podemos comprender, digamos, las metáforas occidentales, no nos queda tan difícil entenderlas. Pero cuando pensamos en una lengua como el chino, que tiene más de 250.000 grafías, ¿cierto? Si con 27 fonemas, grafemas hemos hecho maravillas, imagínense cómo será el sistema de pensamiento de un chino. O sea, yo creo que no es extraño ver una clasificación de estas, porque la mente de un chino debe ser metafórica, ¿no? Yo contaba en una clase un día que yo estoy casada con un noruego, y ese noruego, antes de estar casado conmigo, estuvo casado con una china, y él le decía a ella en inglés, I love you. Ella hablaba inglés, y ella le decía, what do you mean? Y él le decía, that I love you. Y ella le decía, no, eso tiene algo más ahí debajo. Y él le decía, carajo, esta mujer no entiende. Y yo decía, pues claro. Entonces imagínate, si esta gente dibuja en 250.000 grafías en el mundo, por supuesto que su mente tiene que ser completamente metafórica, ¿sí? Y este hombre habla noruego y habla inglés y nunca aprendió chino. Para él el chino era un ruido, ¿no? Como lo fue el español, porque tampoco aprendió español y por eso nos divorciamos. Pero justamente leer esto para mí fue impactante, porque a nosotros con nuestra organización mental, imagínate, desde Aristóteles, biólogo, que clasificó hojas, clasificó animales, clasificó el mundo, nosotros venimos acostumbrados a clasificar por lógicas occidentales el mundo. Cuando encontramos que otro, que es nuestro reflejo, lo acomoda de otra manera, por supuesto que nos tiene que poner en cuestión, ¿no? O sea, ¿cómo tú te identificas? Si a ti te ponen a clasificar los animales sin ser biólogo, ¿cómo los clasificas? De alguna manera buscamos nuestros trazos históricos occidentalizados para clasificar, pero seguramente no lo vamos a hacer así, ¿verdad? Okay. This is I think the longest part of the presentation, but I have just this slide because all of the what I have identified as possible problems of research, there are more than this, but I think this is a big list that we can think a little bit about that, because it always depends on the context, right? I mean, I'm talking about problems possible to be researched, obviously in terms of identity, right? For example, if we talk about culture theories, you know, culture as identity is one of those words everybody use, right? Everybody think they know what culture is. But we need to go a little bit back to the history of the term in order to realize, to discover that we have been essentialist in our definition of other people. For example, it was at the end of 19th century when there was a real, confrontation between two different perspectives from anthropology about culture. And the first one was the one coming from biology. Remember Mr. Charles Darwin? Charles Darwin said that animals, they survive because, the stronger survives and the stronger adapts itself, and this is the condition to survive. And this is the way we believe we act too, right? And if you think a little bit about that, it is happening in languages. That's why we speak Spanish here, right? Because we were not the stronger. Stronger were the Spaniards. That's why we don't know anything about our native languages, right? And that's why students like the ones I have at Universidad de Tolima, they feel embarrassed about speaking in their mother languages. And each time less and less speakers we can find that use the language they know, because they don't feel comfortable to share what they know about their own culture and languages. Why? Because we received this inheritance from biology. Adaptation, right? Impositions from the stronger. And this is something that is happening today with English, right? I am teaching in a licenciatura program, and I'm teaching in a master's degree in English teaching at Universidad de Tolima. And there is something really interesting there, because most of the students, they study at night and work during the day. And they are the only students at Universidad de Tolima who work professionally without being professional yet, right? Because, the market needs them. The market needs them. So they don't look for a job. The job looks for them. We are receiving letters from different institutions every day. Require a teacher, require a language teacher, and they just go and work because they get tired of being called to work. Right? It is maybe it's the only profession that guarantees to get a job, right? And there is something special happening with the master's students. We have 3 groups at the moment, and most of them are not language teachers. The profession, the pre-grade, the undergraduation is not in language teaching, but they are doing the master in language teaching because they know that this is a good way to get a job, right? So this is This is something interesting. And why? Why it is happening? Why? What do you think is happening? La palabra clave, ¿no? Globalización. A second topic, and is related to the first one, is this idea of the native speaker. You know, in looking back at the history of the methods, we can see that there was, you know, a big importance given to the native speaker in front of the national speaker, like we are, right? Why? Why is the native speaker, you know, like more important, or, you know, people give importance and they get a job? Even if they are not language teachers, they get a job in foreign contexts. Why?
I think that is because people don't realize that it's more important the pedagogy than the way in which I speak. They think that if I can speak with a good accent, I can teach English, but it's not true. They don't realize that important is that I can teach English to my students, that I can do that they understand me, but they think that is the way I sound is important.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we have to work a lot in create a conscience in that what is the image of a teacher,
Exactly.
English teacher.
And you know what? When you already pass for problems in learning a language, you can understand your student better, right? But if you have the language as a mother tongue, you probably don't understand that your student, you know, can understand a grammar point.
Yeah.
So there is a sense of identification with the student whenever makes a mistake, and you are able to describe the mistake because you speak his or her language, and at the same time you pass through the same problem, right? You know, I tell about my husband again. He was a teacher in Conversación Avanzada, a course once in the language center at Universidad. And it was funny because the students wrote and he just circled the mistakes, right? And the students asked him, Andy, we don't understand the mistake. And he said, he used to say, it's just wrong, I don't know, it's just wrong. Look at the way and try to correct it and bring it correctly to me, right? He was not able to describe the problems they had because he didn't have the mirror of the first language of the student, because the only word he learned in Spanish was amarillo, right? No more. So it was difficult for him to place in the shoes of a student, because his process was absolutely different, right? That's why, in this idea, I mean, I am a defender of licenciados all the time, because they have that idea of, playing the role of a student as a student, because they were students, they had the problems, they had those difficulties. Okay, another problem dealing with identity is this of the word Englishes. English, I think, is the richest language in the world. David Noonan says that this is the richest language in lexical items. Why? We are always complaining about the, ¿cómo se llama? De los extranjerismos, anglicismos. Por ahí vi un post del director de la maestría en estos días sobre nuevos anglicismos aceptados en la lengua española. ¿Sí? Viper. Por ahí lo vi. Pero la cantidad de léxicos que han entrado a la lengua inglesa por cuenta de los hablantes de otras lenguas es gigantesco. Es decir, no nos hemos puesto a observar qué tanto las otras lenguas han influenciado el inglés hasta convertirla en la lengua más rica lexicalmente hablando. ¿Sí? Es decir, nos hemos siempre visto un poco como víctimas de la lengua hegemónica que se impone, pero sería chévere poderla ver desde el otro lado, ¿no? Porque definitivamente el español ha influenciado mucho el inglés, muchísimo más de lo que sospechamos, ¿sí? Y eso de alguna manera nos pone en otra perspectiva, ¿no? El problema, digamos, del estudio de las identidades, como de las investigaciones contemporáneas, es que ellas se ubican siempre del lado de las minorías. Sí, eso está bien, ¿no? El lado de las minorías étnicas, de las minorías lingüísticas, de cómo juegan un rol, digamos, los hegemónicos poderosos económicos, militares, comerciales sobre los países pequeños o grupos minoritarios, pero valdría la pena mirarlo desde el otro lado, ¿no? Es decir, ustedes saben, el español es la primera lengua extranjera que más estudian, por ejemplo, en los Estados Unidos, ¿no? Eso da otra perspectiva frente a la conquista de la lengua nuestra frente a las otras, ¿no? De ahí que el negocio del español como lengua extranjera haya subido tanto de ingresos, ¿no? Es impresionante. Si ustedes se fijan en el Instituto Cervantes, por ejemplo, cómo ha crecido a nivel mundial el tema. Lo que pasa es que nosotros no somos país que vendamos, digamos, sistemas de aprendizaje de lengua española, aunque lo hablemos también, pero ahí está, ¿no? Another problem, diasporas. See conflicts, countries, nationalities, this idea of intercultural citizenship, which is absolutely false, because if we say I am a world citizen, that's not true, because whenever you have a problem abroad, you have to go to our country's office or embassy, because we belong to national entities, and people identify ourselves because of the country we belong to, and this is an opportunity we have as language teachers and as foreign language speakers to try to change this identity that we have in front of the foreign people, you know? I mean, every day people are coming to the country, and I'm not talking about the image, that's not the idea, right? Because, you know, probably we are more accustomed to interculturalism than we suspect, because we are open to foreign people. We are nice with foreign people, so our attitude is really comfortable for foreign people. And everybody is saying, Colombian people, they are so lovely and blah, 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 right? Because this is, and we are really friendly. Whenever a person has problems to communicate, we place in the problem of the other, and we try from one side, and then we try for another, and at the end, that person finds a friend. And I think it's something we have to look at, right? With the curiosity of a teacher. I always, receiving foreign people at the Universidad de Tolima. I was the director of the international office for scholarships and stuff. And I did it because the president of the university needed somebody for a while, and I was there just to do that, not because I'm not prepared for that, because I don't know anything about international relationships, but he asked me while a person, full-time person came to the university. And it was, every day, new people, foreign people coming. And all of them were the same, happy, absolutely happy with the students, absolutely happy with the environment. And I don't think it's because it's in Again, I think it's, in the whole country. So what about our identity in terms of how open we are in front of foreign people coming here? You see? Okay, I already talked a little bit about the phonological models, right? David Crystal gave something that really caught my attention about the received pronunciation, model, the phonological model of the BBC, the official phonological model of the Elizabeth the Queen. It's Oxford, right? Oxford accent. And it's real, the real number of speakers with that accent is not more than 300,000 people. You see? 300,000 people is nothing. And they want to impose that all over the world. And that number of people is decreasing year by year. Why? Because the number of English speakers is increasing year by year. Right? It's very funny, but it's like this. Okay. We already talked a little bit about the methods, but let's memorize a little bit about that. Remember the direct method. Do you remember something about the direct method? I look at faces. Like, no more, please, boring. No? You want to share something that you remember about that?
It's not only about the direct method, it's more about all the methods that we already know to teach language. We don't only talk about direct method, we talk about natural method, we talk about
Audiolingual.
Like, there are several, and at the end, well, that was a class. This is a class we're taking right now. And the final reflection we could get from it was, there is not really a method. So for me, just to mention it is a problem.
Yes, at the end, what we do here in this contemporary, currency of the language teaching, we are mingling methods all the time. But there was a time in which, schools of language teaching, they were mandatory about using certain methods. For example, in the direct method, they didn't accept foreign speakers, just native, right? And they never spoke in other language than the one they were learning. And the teacher never answered a question. Whenever a student asked a question, the teacher returned the question to the group, right? In order to ask the students to speak. And the teacher became like an actor because he used, all the resources possible to explain something, but trying the students, to get the word, not the teacher. So It's something that I think is good for advanced levels, but at the beginning I think it's very frustrating. Because if you don't understand, you just stay in a silent period for longer than necessary because you're afraid of saying something wrong, right? Okay, and the last one is the cultural circle, is the methodology imposed or proposed, better proposed than imposed, by the Birmingham School. And it proposed how to explain the production of something. For example, one research that they did, and it was about identity, was about in 1994, do you remember? Nah, you don't remember, you're very young. But in 1994, ¿cómo se llama? El walkie? The Sony Walkman was the boom, right? It was in 1992 to 1994, right? Why was that important at that moment? Because the publicity around it, was providing new adjectives to the users. New ideas for the people to identify with the product. So, for example, I don't have any images there here because I lost my computer. But I have some images of the publicity, and there were very old people, very very old guys, doing jogging, and they were jogging with young girls. Very sexy young girls, right? And he was listening to old music while jogging, and they were listening to young music, but they were friends because they were going together, and that was a possibility provided by the Sony Walkman, right? And it was like a canguro, remember? It was a big one with a cassette. It had the cords. We have the iPad and the telephones. We have more practical elements now, but at that time it was the first iPhone produced. And Sony, the Sony company, they realized, like for the first time, that the idea to sell something really, really well was to change the identification of the consumer, right? Not products for old people, not products for young people, but products for everybody to live better, right? So the cultural circle can be used with the products for language teaching, for example, textbooks. Let's think about New Headway, for example. New Headway, according to David, I don't remember, I think it's David Block. He says, it was 2009, but I'm not sure it's David Block, the one who writes about identities. Yes. He says, he has a book called The Construction of English. And he says that Oxford University Press has passed for real hard moments in selling books. Can you imagine that? One of the biggest publishing houses in the world, having hard moments. And they always survive because of New Headway, or Headway, or New Headway 4, the series of Headway. The first one appeared in 1996. And we are, almost 20 years. And we already have American New Headway and Spanish New Headway. New Headway is, produced specially for certain consumers. But if you think about that, the idea of a global consumer is the same. a young university guy who needs to learn English. I mean, for young adults, right? And the system is the same. And they are following the rules of the publishing editions by the British government, and the British government guidelines for production are the same for Europe. So they can be sold all over the place, because they are fulfilling the requirements, the legal requirements, right, in teaching and method, etc. The thing is that if you go to Pakistan, they use Headway. If you go to the States, you see people use Headway. If you go to Venezuela, they use Headway and others, right? If you go to Chile, I mean, it's very interesting to see how people use the same book all over the place, as if the user of the book was the same, and they weren't. But I think we need to, and I think it's another point that I miss here, and it's about the local knowledge. Now, theories about local knowledge are produced by anthropologists. It was Clifford Geertz, the first one who talked about this idea of local knowledge. But the anthropologists gave ideas to education field, because we as teachers, before choosing a book, because choosing a method, we need to know who we're working for, right? In order to define, design, decide what we consider the best for them, not for the teacher, for them and the process, right? Okay, I think that's all. Thank you very much.